Hey everybody, it's Eric alongside Rod to discuss MSU's 83-75 win over pesky Samford. Before we begin, a quick thanks to everyone who supports the show, including Michael Yoakum, who supported the show through a one-time gift on PayPal. If you'd like to show us some appreciation, feel free to visit tffinots.com/support to get the necessary links for one-time or recurring gifts. All right, Rod, Samford was, I think it's fair to say, everything we thought we would see, and then some. They were leading by as many as 12 in the first half on the backs of some turnovers and abysmal shooting by Michigan State. And then Michigan State went on a big run at the end of the half to go into halftime up 10, and it felt pretty comfortable. And then the game kind of went back and forth in the second half. The Spartans were kind of comfortably double-digit lead most of the time, but not able to shake Samford. And the Bulldogs made it interesting at the end, giving a little bit of tense moments. And so Michigan State ends up winning by 8. So what was your take on the game?
Um, I think it was simultaneously a very good test for Michigan State to see a team that plays like that. Nobody in the Big Ten will play like that,
Right.
and you won't see anybody on the schedule play like that until perhaps the NCAA tournament. So it's good preparation from that point of view. And at the same time, I found it to be an extremely irritating game to watch. And I'm not blaming anybody. Look, that's the way they play. But it just, despite the fact that it was such a fast game. Normally, you think of a fast game and you think, well, that's an ideal watch because it's going to have a lot of flow and the teams will be
Right.
going up and down. I didn't think it had any of that. I thought it was, um, I thought it was physical, and frankly, um, I thought Samford got away with some physicality they shouldn't have at different points in that game. Um, and it just, I don't know, it just, and again, I don't mean this to be pejorative. It's just more descriptive. Um, that that weird morphing defense that they were playing, which at
Yeah.
times was a one three
Is it,
one. I've never, I gotta say, I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like it
it
because
was kind of
normally
cool in some ways.
it was very effective
Yeah.
because normally, when anybody's playing a zone, be it a 2-3, a 1-3-1, whatever, there are consistent gaps that you can find in such a zone if you're patient and you move the ball, you swing it back and forth. Eventually, you'll find those gaps and you can exploit them either via, passing into somebody who sits in the gap or sometimes by dribble penetration. Um, and that's why I'm generally not much of an advocate of zones because I think, especially in the modern game, I just think it's way too easy
Yeah.
to beat a zone. If you're going to play it consistently, but that zone was strange in that when MSU tried to put somebody in the middle, which is normally where the gap presents itself, they always had a man tagging them. It was almost like you don't
They were
see it
boxing one
much.
sort
Well,
of
I
or
was gonna
something.
say you don't see that much anymore, but boxing one was a way that guy, it was not that extreme per se, because boxing one, that guy could literally be following the offensive player anywhere he
Right.
went on the floor. But yeah, it kind of felt that way to me a little bit. I mean, obviously there's only so much I'm going to pick up when I'm watching it live because
Yeah.
you're interested in you're taking in a lot of things. But that's how it appeared to me, is that they frequently had somebody kind of tagging that guy in the middle, and MSU really struggled with it. We have talked, I mean, it's amazing to me they scored as many points as they did, because we've been talking all year to date about how great it's been that Michigan State plays at such a fast pace that they're rarely, if ever, in late clock situations. Well, that did not hold true tonight.
There were a lot. Yeah.
Samford got, now I don't think they ever, maybe they had one shot clock violation when a last ditch heave failed
It
to
was
hit
a
the
yeah, air
rim.
ball. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, other than that, they didn't generate a lot of those. But man, they really put MSU behind the eight ball and forced a few tough shots. And it's the first time all year we've seen that. And I think it was because of that defense, and their pressure was obviously very effective too. Um, so good for them. I mean, it worked. It kept them in the game, and they haven't been playing great defense up until this point. And I still think in certain areas, I mean, believe it or not, Michigan State shot 70% on twos
Yeah.
in
Oh,
this
I
game.
I believe it.
So,
A
you
lot of
know,
dunks
it's yeah.
and
So
layups. Yeah.
you could see the problems that they have. Like if you actually are able to work the ball and you survive the pressure, you got pretty good chance of getting a good shot. And I guess that held true. But um, it made for, I felt, a very disjointed, unpleasant watch. Normally, like I say, you see a game in, what was it, 83-75 was the final.
Yeah.
You would think, well, that would be an entertaining game to watch. Not so, not in my opinion. A good win for Michigan State. I think they they learned some things about themselves, hopefully. And that was a quality opponent that you had to do a fair amount of things well to win it. But it just wasn't a fun game for me, at least, to watch. I mean, maybe others feel differently, but that's how I felt.
No, I
I
agree.
wouldn't want to see that. I wouldn't want to see that game repeated. I wouldn't want to see it again.
Yeah, and I would add only that I think a part of the reason they got those late clock violations and had so much trouble with that defense is they would often get into that offense. 9 seconds is already off the shot clock before they get across the timeline, and so
That
they're really only attacking
absolutely,
it, with
absolutely.
17, 18 seconds left in the shot clock, and you don't have, you're. And I've talked before that it was not unusual earlier in the other games we were playing this season that they're into their offense 25 seconds left on the
Yep,
shot clock. And now there's, 40% of that is gone,
hundred
and it makes a
percent,
big difference.
100%, absolutely. And that's why, even though absent the first whatever 5-6 minutes of the game, I didn't think their pressure did a hell of a lot in terms of forcing mistakes. It
Just
still
slowing
was
down.
effective for that reason.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because it slowed everything down, made it disjointed, made it harder on MSU to get into good half court offense. And you saw the game that you saw.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's talk briefly, I guess, about some individual performances. The most minutes played by Trey Holloman, 30 minutes. He was not very good offensively, 1 for 9 from the field. That's all threes. And so he hit one, but 8 misses. One or two of those, I think, were like late clock because they were
They
late
were.
into the shot clock. And so hit both his free throws, had a rebound, 9 assists, 5 turnovers. And I feel like most of those came early. And then sort of once they got things figured out, he was better.
Yeah.
And 6 steals, led his
Yeah.
team in steals with 5 points. So I think overall played a very good game. He was bad in the first few minutes of the first half, but kind of everybody looked bad in the first bit of the game, and
Well,
then he got better.
it was a weird game from him because, as you say, there's certain stats you can look at and say, wow, you know, um, 5 turnovers, horrible.
Yeah,
1 for 9 from the floor. It's terrible. But he also had 9 assists and absolutely was the better of MSU's 2 point guards tonight. There's no question about that.
yeah,
The game did shift. He struggled a little bit too early, but he was better than Jeremy was. Jeremy had just an absolutely awful opening to that game. And when Trey came in, when they made their push and got back, closed the gap, and then actually took that lead in the first half, which they never relinquished, Trey Holloman was the guy doing it. And
yeah,
and he was far better in terms of being able to exploit the opportunities to actually get into the transition game. So it was a positive step in that regard. Hart, and you say, I mean, 6 steals. He was he was very good. So it's hard to evaluate his game. I think on balance, I'll take it. I
hmm
think he
yeah,
was, I don't think they win it without the contributions that he made. But on the other hand, it's like the efficiency that was such a hallmark of his game, really, each of his first 2 seasons has mostly not been present so far. He's been
yeah.
far more turnover prone, and he's obviously struggling to find consistency with his shot. So we'll hope that that starts to turn around. But in terms of being dynamic and actually making things happen at both ends, he was the best they had tonight, no question.
Yeah, I think he's been risking a little bit more in those passes, especially, and that seems where a lot of the turnovers are occurring on fast break opportunities, trying to go ahead, push it ahead. So, and those are probably the turnovers that Izzo's probably a little bit more okay with if you had to pick. Obviously, the one where he caught the ball out of bounds that's a bad one, but I feel like a lot of those are just pushing up ahead and you get picks off. Not that it's okay, but I think Izzo appreciates the attacking nature of his game at that in that instance. Uh, Jase Richardson, 26 minutes, 4 for 6 from the field, 1 for 2 from three, hit all 3 of his free throws, 3 rebounds, 2 of them offensive, 3 assists, no turnovers, a block, 4 steals, 12 points. Great game. I didn't see what happened. I just know that he got hurt the last minute of the game.
I can tell you. So he was in going up for a rebound. He landed and looked like he rolled his ankle.
Oh, okay.
And so I've seen Izzo's, as we're recording this, I've seen his post game comments, and he does not sound overly concerned. I mean, I think the first sign of that was, first of all, Jay stayed on the bench. And though
Yeah, he didn't go to the locker room. I thought the same thing.
He had
So
to be
it's good.
helped off, and he certainly was limping a bit. So there's obviously pain, but he was in the handshake line. He was, I don't
Yeah.
think you do that if you really fear, oh boy, he's got a serious,
Yeah.
a very
Fracture's what you
serious
worry about.
sprain or
Yeah.
fracture. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Izzo said he
Okay.
figures he'll miss a few days. It sounded to me like it would very much be a possibility that nothing is interrupted in terms of his availability for Maui. I mean, I guess we'll find out, but
Yeah. It's
um,
nice it's 7 days, so that's a long time
yeah,
between games.
yeah, that helps. Um, I thought he was great,
I
which is
mean,
no
he's
surprise,
unflappable.
but
It's crazy.
yeah,
He's a freshman.
he just he just makes the right
Yep.
decision so consistently. Um, yeah, I mean,
Doesn't
what
press.
more
I
can you
mean,
say?
I don't know.
That's why it would be a serious. I mean, Michigan State's got backcourt depth, but there are guys I would feel better about losing for a while than I would Jace. I will tell you
Yeah.
that.
And
Because
that's something wouldn't have expected 3 weeks ago.
right, but he's shown enough that I
Yeah.
think
Oh, yeah. I agree.
it's fairly obvious he's a piece they absolutely need. Um, you can't. I mean, there's just nothing to criticize
No,
really about his
no, not
game
at all.
at this point. He played a decent amount of point guard in this game, and I thought he was very good doing that, which we've seen him do before. So that's not a shocker, but it's good to see. Obviously, he's a capable shooter. He's very, very good going off the dribble and finding opportunities, creating them for himself as a finisher. He competes defensively. He competes as a rebounder. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's just not much more to say than that. I think, it'll be interesting to see how it goes because obviously guys aren't always in the same circumstances from team to team. And I haven't yet seen enough of everybody to have a really good feel for it. But just knowing what it normally looks like in this league, I can't imagine there are too many freshmen who are playing better than Jase Richardson in the Big Ten.
I
I
wouldn't think
really
so.
can't.
Yeah.
When you look at the totality of everything he's doing, there might be guys that are scoring more because they're in different roles, um,
Right.
playing more minutes, but the totality, both ends of the court of what he does, I think you'd be hard pressed.
Yeah. Jaden Akins had another good game, 28 minutes, 10 for 15 from the field. So high volume, but very efficient. I mean, shooting 66% from the field, 3 for 7 for three. So the three finally dropped for him, hit both his free throws, 3 defensive rebounds, 2 turnovers, no assists, a steal, 25 points. Did foul out. He had that dumb technical. I assume he was talking to the bench. I
He
didn't quite
did.
see what
He
happened.
talked to their bench. Well, those of us who were watching the game on Peacock didn't see it either. Just so you don't have to feel badly.
I'm,
God, what an awful broadcast. I'm telling you. I tweeted out during the game and I'm going to keep doing it. And this part isn't just them. I'll get into what they do. Um a hashtag, I know that's fallen by the wayside, people utilizing that anymore as a tool, but I had a hashtag that I tweeted out saying ban the end zone cam. I am so
Oh,
tired of it. Here's the
yeah.
thing. Think about it this way. What seats are the costliest or the most premium? They're the
The ones
ones
right
on
behind the
the
stanchion
side,
where you can't
on,
see.
right, on the sideline, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
what are we gaining from that? It's horrible. And every network does it. Some do it more than others. Some have patterns like CBS has, I noticed over the years, has a pattern where they'll do it, I think, twice in each half. And that's it. But they keep going to, they were going to it on inbound plays.
I,
So the
I think it's
camera
like
is staring at the inbounder. You can't see the game. It was horrible.
I
So
think it's a work program like they have
yeah,
for like that cameraman. They put him with a prison or something. Like, well,
must
we gotta,
must
justify.
be. But they were we didn't see it because the camera was lingering on crowd reaction shots to the Cohen card
Yeah,
dunk.
which makes sense in some respects. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Consistently in this game, and this is where and I'm being serious about this. This is where I have my beef with it as a viewer. Um, if you are doing any kind of homework coming into this game, you know these are two teams that are going to run at all times, even off
Right.
made baskets.
Yeah.
So you can't linger on a player reaction shot, a crowd reaction shot,
Yeah.
and not run the risk of missing multiple seconds of action. And that happened repeatedly.
Yeah. Oh,
They
okay.
were awful. And again, they're not the only network that does this, that falls prey to this stuff, but it was really egregious tonight. Just a
Yeah.
terrible broadcast. Really bad. Anyway,
But
that's why
Akins looked
Akins
pretty
got
good,
the
so it's
oh,
nice to have him
pretty good.
back.
He looked great.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
second, I think we talked about it. Although his shot wasn't falling, he really did everything else well against
Yeah.
Bowling Green. So that was really important coming off, frankly, a rough night against Kansas, right?
Yep.
So now he built on that, was much more efficient, finally got the three ball going. And boy, he had I want to say something about the last one he hit. Um, Jackson Kohler has not in his MSU career distinguished himself much as a passer.
No,
And
but that was a
I
great
don't
pass.
think it's that he's incapable of it. I just think his mindset is get the ball on the post, look to score. And he
Right.
just doesn't. That was a thing of beauty. That was like vintage Derek Nix
Yeah.
out of the post for that. Hit him right in the shooting pocket, and Jaden drilled it. That was really beautiful all the way around. But yeah, Jaden was, and by the way, the last foul that Jaden got called for, the foul him out, ridiculous call,
Yeah, I
awful.
agree. But
He
that
went
was that
he
was a
went straight
technical
up.
that cost him the
Right, the
ejection,
technical
right?
put him in that spot, but
Yep.
that was just a terrible call.
Yeah. No,
And that's
yeah.
those guys. Overall, that crew was okay. Like I say, I think they let a lot of physicality on that press go that could have been called, but I thought late in the game they really lost control. They made a lot of poor decisions
Yeah.
officiating that game, and that was one of the most egregious because what the hell was Jaden supposed to do? He stayed vertical. He went straight up.
Yeah.
The kid crashes into him. That's a play on at best,
Yeah.
But
I agree.
anyway, mild disappointment there because on balance, it was a great night. That's a career high for Jaden, supplanting the one that he tied earlier this season.
Hmm.
So 25 points. And I'll say this, man, he keeps this up. Maybe the old coach actually knows what he's talking about when he's declared him to be their best player. I'll usually I'm not one to go off the deep end when Izzo is so adamant about something, saying no, he's wrong. But
Yeah.
I really did not have a lot of confidence in that happening based on what we were seeing.
Yeah.
But you know, it's starting to look like, man, he's got to do it consistently.
Yeah.
You can't have a game like the one he had against Kansas. They're going into obviously what are going to be three ultra competitive games, no matter who they play in
Right.
Maui, because the strength of that field.
Yeah.
Um, he can't pull a Kansas in those games. They need him to show up and show up the way he did against Bowling Green, even if the shot's not falling. And if the shot is falling, then show up like he did tonight.
Yeah.
But it was really, his mentality was perfect. He wasn't settling. He was looking to attack the basket. It was very good. He was finishing plays. Yeah, just a really, really good night for him. Glad to see
Yeah.
it.
I will be sold when I see him do it against tougher competition. But
Yeah,
I'm
well,
with you
that's
that I
kind of my
definitely,
point.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think, and I would say the one bad Jaden we saw was he had one sequence late, it was somewhere in the second half where he pulled up 3 feet in front of the 3-point line, took a jumper. And boy, I felt, boy, that looks like last year's offense, where they're just
Hmm.
struggling to get into any offense. And he kind of pulls up and someone takes a really long two. That is
Yeah.
not an in rhythm two. And he missed that. But moving on to Frankie Fiddler briefly, the guy 2 for 6 finally hit a three. He's 1 for 4 from three. So not great. 7 for 8 from the line, as he seems to always be. He had an offensive rebound, a couple assists, a turnover, 12 points, kind of steady, always about 10, 12 points. Nothing to wow
Yeah,
you, but
that's what he's averaging. He's
he's sort of
averaging
just,
right
I
around
mean,
12.
yeah, he's just kind of,
Once again, and look, I think it is important that we get to the point that we're not saying, yeah, it didn't feel great, but then you look up and he's got 12 points, because it seems like that's been the case most games so far.
yeah.
That it's never felt like he ever really got in a rhythm, was ever really getting it, just working the opposition the way I think we thought he might. But then you look up and okay, he's in double digits again. And
hmm
and look, I do think the good thing that you could say about his play to date is, and it's been true, you talk about different levels of competition. It's been true against everybody they've played, which is a
Yes.
varied lot so far.
Yep.
He has shown, at least to sufficient degree for me, that he has a floor that he'll hit. So it's and this is we've been seeing that pretty frequently. Like even on a night we talk about Jaden, a night where you're not the jumpers aren't falling for you, you're not scoring much from the field. Can you find other ways to contribute? With Frankie Fiddler, the answer has been yes, every game, primarily because he is able to get to the free throw line, and he did it again tonight. And it's
Yeah.
not by accident. I keep saying, he's at least heading into tonight. He was in the top 10 in the country in fouls drawn per 40 minutes of play. It's not an accident. This is who he is. And so that's a good thing. Now, the problem will come in if he can't ever consistently get beyond that, because you would
Yeah.
like
Right.
more. You would like
Yeah.
more efficient shooting. You'd like to see him. I felt he was a guy who, coming into the season, I thought like mid-teens was a realistic goal for him in terms of scoring. And he's not way off that mark, but he's not quite there.
Yeah. He's 2, 3
So
jumpers away per game. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so that's the next step. And look, he, in fairness to him, he is 5 games into his high major career.
hmm
So he's still, if now he doesn't have multiple years, which is the unfortunate thing. But if you think about how long it took a guy like Tyson Walker to fully adjust, even more so Joey Hauser,
Yeah.
it's by that standard, it's not so bad, but he also doesn't have the time those guys had. So he's
Right.
gotta he's gotta start picking it up soon to really be the kind of major impact guy. I still think he's making an impact as is. It's just not as big as maybe we'd hoped.
And then I thought the 5 spot was pretty good tonight, actually. I think
Yeah.
Sapala, 18 minutes, 4 for 6 from the field, 2 for 2 from the line, 6 rebounds, 2 of them offensive, finished with 10 points. Cooper was 1 for 2, missed both those free throws late. I think, I think the pressure, those are tough free throws for him, but also had 5 rebounds, one of them offensive, had it just finished with 2 points. But I thought they both played pretty good from where they were and able to handle the tough assignment which we anticipated them having trouble guarding,
Yeah,
out on the 3-point
and
line.
and Kohler played a lot of center as well
Yes,
tonight.
he
I mean,
did.
and he had 4.6
And
boards.
six
Um,
boards. Yeah.
yeah, I thought this was another, we've seen enough now that I think we've got a pretty good idea of who Zapala is.
hmm
And he's going to be a guy who's going to give you a rebounding presence. He'll give you, there will be nights like this where he just kind of happens to find his way into 10 points, and there'll be other nights where maybe he scores 2. I don't think you're going to see consistent scoring from him. It's going to be more opportunistic, and he's going to be, solid, respectable defensively. Um, for Coop, yeah, it's tough that he missed those 2 free throws because he was 9 for 10 on the
Yeah.
year coming into that. So the percentage is still good, even after those misses. But yeah, just wasn't a great night for him. But look, they struggled mightily defensively against Brownell. I mean, Brownell had 19 and 9 and was
Yeah.
3 for 6 from 3. He really torched them. And we knew that was going to be difficult. We talked about it in the pregame. It's rare that you're facing a 5-man with the schedule Michigan State plays where he's that much of a threat from deep. But this is one of those examples, and I at times they were okay, but I didn't think it doesn't take many moments, a half second relaxing, um, a half
Yeah.
second late on recognition to get burned by a guy who could shoot like that, and that's exactly what happened. So, but they were okay. I mean, they did.
Yeah.
I'm not down on any of their performances per se. They all rebounded well. That was important. But defensively at least. But yeah, just kind of okay.
Booker, 9 minutes, didn't play much. 3 for 4 from the field when he was in. He had his 1 3-point attempt, had 1 offensive rebound, 3 fouls, 7 points. So from an offensive standpoint, I think he looked okay. Defensively,
Yeah,
he really had trouble with his positioning, and that's why he was kind of like late getting places. That's why he's picking up a bunch of fouls. But
I think that
the one
this
drive he had, especially where he went up, laid it up, you're like, okay,
was
that's something
nice.
we have not seen, and that is something that he
Yep.
could do. I mean, I'd almost like him to go a little bit through the player more than around him like he did, but either way, I mean, I think that was very encouraging to see that.
Yeah. He's got so much length that the same way that Carr can make up so much ground just traveling through the air,
Yeah, right.
Xavier Booker can do that just by kind of unfurling his wingspan. And you
Yep.
saw it on that play.
Yeah, and it's
that's a real asset. I mean, I'm
yeah,
not
his
kidding.
long strides
That's
and long arms.
that is that yeah, that makes him, and it's there. I think his handle is there. His
Hmm.
athletic burst is there. I think he can do that kind of stuff with more regularity than we've seen. So I think it was an encouraging, it wasn't an explosion. And as you say, I think the defensive matchup, look,
Yeah,
he was having a guard. I mean, this isn't even, oh, that's an undersized 4. I mean, that's essentially a wing
right.
that they
Yeah,
were asking him to
we wondered
guard.
about that, how that'd go. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's asking a lot. And I think you're right that had something to do with the limitation in minutes for him. Um, but it's hard to argue that he didn't make an impact. 7 points in 9 minutes, you'll take that.
yeah,
And look, the first one, which was a 3, was huge
yeah,
because Michigan State was sitting there at 0 for 9 as a team. You're like, here we go
yeah,
again.
yep.
It's not like they were scorching after that, but as Izzo likes to say, they managed to rejoin the human race from there. And that first one was huge. It was huge for
Yeah.
him too, because he's been missing a lot. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm okay with what he did tonight.
Yeah, you can definitely see with him if if he's to show a little bit more ability to do that, or interest in doing that, his shot fake will be very effective, right? Because you're going to be
Yeah,
forced to come out to get, and then he can dribble and just go
yeah,
right to the rim. I mean, you can definitely see how he can be a real load when he figures that out and starts
yep,
using it effectively.
absolutely.
Finally, just mentioned briefly, Konkar had 2 real loud dunks. The one that, that Jaden then talked to the bench. I missed a couple of bunnies, 2 rebounds, one of them offensive, an assist, 2 turnovers, a steal, a block. He was impactful. I thought he was played, you know, okay game. I don't think there was anything wondered about.
I thought he was pretty good defensively, and they needed him
Yep.
because of the lineups that team was playing. So yeah, you'd like for a little more in the way of actual production, but his dunk was certainly, it's a shame it was immediately followed up by the
I know.
technical, because
Right.
it did feel like that might be a momentum moment that,
Yes,
okay, Michigan State cannot get this thing up to 14, 16, 18. And
exactly.
instead it just hung in that 8 to 12 range for a long time.
Well, the whole game, pretty much the rest of it, huh,
Yeah.
for most part. So let's move on to our
Well, we should talk about Jeremy Fears. We didn't
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
sure. We'll talk about
Jeremy
Jeremy. I guess we
Fears.
just, aside from saying that he was real rough to start the game, we threw
Well,
the
it
ball out
was
of bounds his first
but
play.
but here's the thing. It was his worst game at Michigan State, in my view.
Hmm.
Um, and he wasn't spectacular against Bowling Green. So I think Jeremy, Maui's going to be important for him to kind of get back on the beam and play the way he's capable of playing. It's nice that, they've got other options and they can pick him up the way they did tonight. But he's a leader of this team. I think he's a really, really critical piece. But that said, even with his struggles, and he was bad right out of the gate, 2 turnovers like that
Yeah.
before he even sat down. Um, he still ended up with 4 assists to 3 turnovers. So he got that positive. He hit 2 big free throws actually late, right
Yep.
after Cooper had missed his.
Hmm.
Those were big free throws. So he managed to find ways to contribute, even though this was a rough one for him. I mean, it's obvious that he, as much as anybody else, I think was really kind of taken aback by the type of pressure that Samford was applying. I mean, those were just bad turnovers and
Yeah.
not the kind of mistakes that he normally makes. So it who knows what that I find it hard to believe that Michigan State wasn't adequately prepared, but boy, it sure looked like it the first few minutes, and then they kind of settled in. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was 7 turnovers in the first 7 minutes, and then
I would believe
seven
it. Yeah.
turnovers the last 33 minutes. So it
Sounds right.
changed, and that was true with Jeremy as much as anybody else. Um, but it, as I say, he's got an opportunity now in Maui against really good opponents to take another step forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's talk about the Brothers Who Just Do Gutters. I got to hang out with the Gutter Brothers at the game today, and so it was fun. Actually, it's kind of funny. For about half the second half, they were just talking shop, talking about buying yards of, I guess, aluminum and stuff for gutters, and how they do the pricing, how they work the region. So it's really pretty funny. But had a great time. A couple fans in front of us, and shout out to, I think it's, I feel terrible. I even checked their name, but I'll have to get, I think it's Brad and his son David, who was there visiting, listeners of the show, who happen season ticket holders right in front of us. So, uh, hi guys. And they've recognized, so they were excited to meet the brothers, the Just You Gutters too. So it's kind of fun for the brothers there. And they got a very entertaining game. I think they expecting Samford to be kind of a nothing team. So it was nice to have a great team. And they're actually interested in, they're going to have they'd like us to launch a new contest. And so this will first mention it. So they want to offer for people who email me, just email me just your name. And let's just say the message is gutters, just for the subject line can be gutters. And you can get a free gutter cleaning up to $300 if you just email me. And then we'll just have a random drawing and someone can win a free gutter cleaning. So if you're in the east or west side of the state, either Kurt or Greg will take care of it. They can even go a little bit outside the region too, if just depends. So just send me your email and just say gutters in the subject line, your name, obviously, and then we'll do the drawing in probably like a week or something. So like get that into me as soon as you can. And you just email me at eric@tffinots.com. And as you know, the Brothers Just Do Gutters, they just do gutters. And so they do fantastic work. It is the rainy season. I'm sure plenty of people have leaves in their gutters and they don't want them there anymore. So if you want someone to clean them out for you, so you don't have to get on the ladders, talk to the brothers. They'll take care of it for you. And if you got any other problems, they can certainly take care of those too, whether it's leaky gutters, you want to put leaf guards on so you don't have to have people come out and clean your gutters, whatever it might be, the brothers can take care of that. So they had the player that we thought had Michigan State had to keep in the gutter for Samford was Rylan Jones, who I think largely Michigan State turned out he was not the guy they need to keep in the gutter, but he played 32 minutes. He was 3 for 7 from the field, 0 for 4 from three. Misses one free throw, had 4 defensive rebounds, 8 assists, 4 turnovers, a block, 2 steals, 6 points. I'd say, sort of. What do you
Yeah,
think?
no, I think they actually did a decent job with him. I'm not going to say they completely shut him down, but again, he was kind of an unconventional choice because um, he's not a big time scorer. But
Right.
what he is a very dynamic player. And I felt you could see the difference when he was on the floor running their offense versus the couple of segments,
Yeah.
one in each half, basically, when he wasn't there. I thought there was a big difference in how they looked offensively. So, to me, I guess I look at this is a team that was scoring 97 points a game coming in. Michigan State held them 22 below their average. And I think a lot of that was the way that they defended against Rylan Jones because this is a team that was, we talked about Michigan State struggling to get into their offense. Well, I'll guarantee you by Samford standards, they must have felt like they were struggling to get into their offense in this game too. Because I
Yeah.
thought, particularly after you got past the first, say, 13 minutes or so, I thought Michigan State's defense in the half court was pretty damn good. This team tests you. I mean, I'm sure you saw it. It's not just they have the capability of shooting, they've got a lot of veteran players. They pass well as a team, and they almost look kind of like a Princeton style offensive
A lot of
approach. They
back
were
doors, cuts. Yep. Yeah.
constantly and
Yeah.
very, very, to Michigan State's credit, very rarely did they break down on that stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think that, so I think all of that combined to make this a struggle. Now they still did some things well. I mean, they shot 49% from the floor, 35% from three. So they weren't terrible,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't play, even though it was a fast game, I don't think it was as fast as Samford wanted. And I
Probably
think
not.
that's
Yeah.
because of the way Michigan State defended, and particularly the way I think they made it tougher on Jones to get them into the stuff they wanted to run. So,
Yeah.
and he had 8 assists, 4 turnovers, but for that guy, a 2-to-1 ratio is doing the job because he averaged better than 3-to-1 last season.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
not bad.
All right. So then the Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids, you get 15% off. You mentioned Final Four when you get your estimate. You can find all that and estimates even again for the Brothers Just Gutters at our support page at tffinots.com/support. Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids can clean your glass, whether it's your house, whether it's a high rise, apartment buildings, business, state capitol. They can take care of it, whatever it is. They can also power wash it, although I don't think they power wash the state capitol, but that'd be quite a that'd be quite an operation. They can definitely do your house or your business, whatever it might be. You can contact them, and again, they'll come out and they have great pricing. They'll get on the ladder so you don't have to. They'll do all that dirty, mucky work. They can come inside your house as well. They can clean the screens, the windowsills, the inside of the window, the outside of the windows. They're meticulous and the nicest people. They're just super, super nice guys and very professional. And so I'd recommend anyone, if you're thinking about it, they should be your first call. So call them today. You'll be glad you did. And they sponsor the player that Michigan State cleans the glass best. You, Rod, had Kohler, and I had Akins. And it looks
Ah,
like
I
looks
thought you
like
had
you
Zapala,
y-
so I get the
no.
point.
Well, actually, had you had Zapala, you also would have gotten the point because
No,
they
no, no.
both tied.
I'm saying I thought you had Zapala.
Oh
I had
no, no.
forgotten.
I
I
had
had
Akins
forgotten. So
because
I thought we were going to share it. That's a
oh no.
that's a win for outright win for
And
me.
Kohler
Thanks,
had one
Jax.
very late. He had like the last rebound, I think. And so that's how you ended up getting the point because otherwise Apollo had beaten you out. So, all right, you're up 2-1. And it was, again, it felt like a little bit of committee rebounding. Cooper had 5 and,
Yeah, it was.
it was not a very good defensive rebounding. And we can talk about that in a little bit, I suppose, when we get to the keys of the game by
Yeah.
Michigan State. But we'll then just talk about the keys of the game, I suppose, brought to you by Nudge Printing. Nudge Printing is a great place to get any Spartan apparel you might be interested in. They've got hoodies, t-shirts, jackets. I'm wearing one right now. If you're watching on YouTube, and if you've not subscribed, you can go to the YouTube channel. You can watch me talk in the microphone. And it's super comfortable. I love wearing this all over the place. I've got a bunch of other Michigan State sort of logoed stuff. As I mentioned before, it's favorite shirts of my family. My daughter wears one of the jackets. There's a quarter zip I've got. Anyway, great stuff. You won't regret buying any of it. All Michigan based too, which is nice. It's a small business, so it's nice to support the business here at Spartan alums out in Portland, Michigan. So check out Nudge Printing. You get 20% off too as a listener to the show if you type in Final Four just as one word into checkout, and that's at nudgeprinting.com. You can also get stuff for your fundraisers at fabricatedcustoms.com. You can check that out as well. And they, again, do high quality work and they do all the work for you. So all you have to do is just kind of come up with the idea. In fact, Gabe will even design shirts for you if you need whatever you need. So it's pretty cool operation there. So 5 keys of the game. Number 1, shoot the rock. Well, they shot it 20 with 29.2%. So that's not good, but not like atrocious. I think
Ever so slight improvement.
it puts Michigan State, I think I was just looking at Torvik. Now they're ranked 356 instead of, I think they're 357th, averaging 22.1%.
Wow. Yeah.
So not very good. But I guess it could have been worse. It was certainly worse to start. And then they picked it up at the end and ended up shooting okay. And certainly I mean, it looks, in some respect, I'm like, well, at least Akins looks better. Fiddler got one to drop. Booker hit one. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I felt a little bit better. All you just need to do is see a couple more drop, but obviously got to shoot better if they're going to beat better teams going forward.
Look, yeah, I mean, and we've spent a lot of time talking about all the other things they are doing better and why that matters. And with the thesis being, look, the 3-point shooting is going to come around. It may not be last year's or the year before, but it's going to be better than what we've seen thus far. I would still hold to that. But, you know, in fairness, you have to actually do it. I would say, and look, you can torture statistics to say anything you want. I would say after the 0 for 9 start, they then hit, what was it, 7 of their next 15.
Yeah.
So much, much better once they finally got one to fall. They have, I would also say this, they haven't had a game yet where they made as many as they did tonight. You know, I think they're high on the season. I think
highest, I think, yeah.
Is it? Okay. So that was a small, tiny half step in the right direction. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, the longer it goes, the more it's going to continue to be talked about and focused on. And that absolutely I mean, tonight, I will say this was the first time that I really felt there were just some shots that I just thought, this is in their heads.
Yes.
There's some awful misses. They had some early that were in and out. There were tough misses, but man, they had a Fiddler had an air ball.
Yeah.
Jackson had an air ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were just some ugly looking shots that, you know, you have to think that now, again, what I'm hoping is that the way they rallied and kind of finished that game over the last, you know, 2/3 of it or 60% of it, whatever it was, where they actually got it rolling a little bit. That's what you have to hope. Okay, that carries on into Maui and beyond. But yeah, I mean, it's a real thing. If Michigan State is shooting tonight basically the way they did last season, you know, they're hitting another couple of threes in this game. You turn an 8-point game into a 14-point game. It feels a little bit different.
Totally. Yeah.
So,
yep. So the next key of the game is winning the pace. And like you said, it was frenetic at times, but not like but not like up and down like expected to be, right?
Yeah, just activity. There was constant activity, but it wasn't free flowing.
Yeah.
It was just constant activity. Look, I think Michigan State won that battle.
Yeah, look at the fast break points.
Say that. Yeah. You look at the
36 for Michigan State, 8 for Samford.
Yeah, I mean, that's a blowout, you know.
Yeah.
And I think Michigan State, after that, especially after that initial few minutes, I thought Michigan State handled Samford's pressure better than the way Samford handled their offense against Michigan State's defense.
Yep.
So yeah, I think Michigan State won that battle. I really do.
Yeah, I think also, look at points off turnovers, which is also a reflection. Michigan State had 13 steals and scored 27 points off
Right.
those steals. And because almost every turnover that Samford, I mean, 13 of their 19 turnovers were steals. And they threw a couple out of bounds too. So
Yeah.
there were
And
those touch
and
intercept for touchdowns, right? Like,
I was going to say a lot of those were in the Izzo's vernacular were pick sixes.
yeah, right,
So you have to, but you do have to if you're really trying to get a grip on what happened. That's why it's important to actually watch games rather than
right.
just look at a box score. Because if you watch the game, you knew, oh, the turnovers Michigan State's generating are really impactful because
Yep.
they're not just getting the ball back, they're scoring and they're scoring easily. MSU had a lot of those. They could have even had more. There was one sequence I remember
Oh,
where
yeah.
Cohen Carr had an opportunity
They
that
missed a
just
little
got,
bunny. Yeah,
yeah.
right.
I mean, there were a handful of those too. It could have been even worse.
Yeah. I thought like Jaden maybe he got blocked, or was it Jeremy? Someone got blocked on their layup or something. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, missed
Yeah, so
call.
the next key to the game was offensive rebounding. So we expected this as an opportunity for Michigan State to offensive rebound well, which they did. I mean, they were 37% offensive
Yep,
rebounding rate, so that was very good. They
yep,
didn't do a whole lot with it, 10 second chance points, largely because they can't hit outside shots at this point. At some point that will
yeah,
probably change.
yeah.
Samford, though, is not a very good offensive rebounding team, and yet they pulled on 38%. They just were just kind of a step
Wait,
faster than Michigan
what?
State.
Is that right?
Yeah, they had
No, it was 11. It was 11 out of 29. They were a little worse than Michigan State.
were
Yeah,
they 30? Is
11 offensive rebounds
my math off?
and 20, yeah, and 29 um 29
That's
missed shots,
38%.
right?
11 out of 29,
Oh,
right?
you're right.
That's
Yeah,
that's
you're right. My
38%.
bad. My
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, for
So,
some reason I was thinking they were slightly below. Yeah, that's a disappointment, and really it's the first time this year that Michigan State has been substandard on the defensive side. I will say, much like with the turnovers, a lot of those came early in a
yes.
flurry.
Yeah, they were that first 10 minutes of the game they were just bad in so many ways.
Yeah, they were just completely
Offensively
out
and
of sync.
defensively. Yeah.
Yeah, completely out of sync. And thank God that Samford wasn't really dialed in offensively, because if they had been, that was ugly enough that Michigan State could have found themselves down 20.
Oh yeah, because they only scored 13
Very easy.
points off those
Right.
second chance. So that's not too bad considering
Yeah. But
they
I mean,
didn't. Yeah.
just the offensive rebounding, but just everything else that was happening, the
Oh yeah, yeah,
turnovers,
for
the
sure.
missed threes,
Yeah.
all of it. Let's keep in mind, MSU actually didn't get into double digits in this game until the under 8.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
right. They had
and
9 points
then
forever, it seemed.
and then the last 8 minutes of the half were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they scored what, 29 points in 7 minutes. It's funny
yeah, it
because they were down
was
12 or something. I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. They'll be lucky to
yeah,
get this within 5. And next thing
right.
they're up by 10 at half. I'm like, how did that
Yeah.
happen?
I give a lot of credit for that in kind of a weird game for him to Trey Holloman. I
Yeah.
really did feel that the way Trey Holloman pushed pace and finally got Michigan State out of that funk, because they were having so much trouble for a while diagnosing the half court defense that Samford was playing, that they just weren't getting anything done in the half court really. So it was
Yeah.
really important that they got loose, got some easy baskets, and then got themselves into a rhythm. And that's pretty much what they did. And a lot of it happened, I think, because of the way he approached the game during that
Yeah,
stretch.
I think so. So then we have the foul line. And so it's interesting because Michigan State had I think they were about like 11 for 11 with, I don't know, 4 minutes left in the game. I thought, well, they're not really going to get their free throws this game. And
Yeah.
they ended up with 23 because
Yeah.
Samford was making, an effort to come back. And again, Michigan State, I mean, yes, they missed a couple of free throws, but I mean, they missed 3. They were 20 for 23. I mean, they
Yeah.
continue to be one of the best
Phenomenal.
free throw shooting teams in the country. I mean, what are they? They're ranked like 16th or something
Yeah.
at 81%. It's pretty amazing.
And it really is the thing that's beautiful about it. And I think we've mentioned this before, is it's across the board. I
Yeah.
mean, they've got, Cooper misses 2 tonight. Well, he's still shooting 75% for the year. 9 for
Yeah.
12. Jackson Kohler got fouled after Coop missed those 2. He steps to the line, hits his 2. I don't know if he's missed yet this year. If he has, maybe once.
Yeah.
All the guards can shoot. Fiddler, we know, not only gets there a ton, but he converts. He actually missed one tonight, but was still, what was he, 7 for 8. So
Yeah.
there's really I'm trying to think, short of Cohen Carr, there's not anybody in their rotation that I wouldn't trust at this
So
stage.
so let me tell you, go down the free throw. I got him right here. So Richardson is 9 for 9, so he's 100%.
Yep.
Holloman is 4 for 4. Kohler is 13 for 14 at 93%.
Okay, so he's
Akins
missed
is
one.
Akins, who has really struggled in the past. He's never been great from the line. 10 for 11, 91%.
Yep.
Fiddler, 34 for 38 at
Yeah.
89.5%. Fears, 14 of 18. Cooper, 10 of 13 for 77%. Sapala, 4 of 8. Carr, 6 of 13. And that's it.
So Zapala would be the other. Zapala would be the other one. So it's
Yes.
basically one of your centers and Carr.
Yeah.
But the other 8 guys, you feel reasonably. I mean, at this
Yeah.
point, the way Carson Cooper has looked, it's not fluky.
It doesn't
His
look like
release
it.
looks good.
Yeah.
He's worked at it. So that's if we see this maintained in at anything close to this. I don't expect them to be 80% plus as a team. But let's say if they stay in the mid 70s with the frequency that they are getting fouled, that's a big deal. It's a big deal because you've got to remember Big Ten games, for the most part, are played in a pretty tight window. So if you can say with some confidence, hey, we're going to be able to pick up, whatever it is, 20 points consistently, 19 points consistently, game in, game out at the free throw line, that's a big deal. That could be a huge factor in determining whether you're a contender or a middle of the pack team, let's say.
And how nice is it to have so many options for the end of the game to have people who can hit free throws if someone's trying to foul you? You know what I mean?
Exactly. You could be much freer in terms of how you're handling those situations.
Right. Not switching offense for defense so much or whatever. Right.
And we got to force it come hell or high water. The ball's got to get to this one guy.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I don't feel like that's the case. Right now, my confidence level is high with pretty much all of them.
Yeah. All right. So the fifth and final key was poise. And so I think it's safe to say that Michigan State did not show a lot of poise. It's certainly early on in this game, really struggling with that half court and even many respects struggling with the half court. I mean, I guess the end, they're trying to foul and going crazy steals, but really struggling to get across the timeline, get into their offense. And so in that sense, I kind of would give a negative mark to Michigan State as well.
The start was awful.
Yeah.
The start was a complete failure, but primarily I'm talking about this. You're right to say it's a broader picture than turnovers. If we keep it to turnovers, as I say, I believe it was 7 turnovers in the first 7 minutes and then 7 the remaining 33 minutes.
Right.
Which is acceptable. In a game that was played like this one was, that's a very acceptable number. They won the turnover battle by 5 in this game over Samford. That was impactful. But I do think you're right. If we're going to be honest, their half-court execution was never great in this game. And give Samford a lot of credit. Izzo said something in the post game. I don't know if I've got this exactly right, but paraphrasing, he said something like, we're never going to see a team give us as many looks as we got tonight, meaning defensive looks. Yeah. And it really was like they were one of these teams, and you see this very rarely, that it looked to me at least, would sometimes morph into a different defense mid-possession. They didn't do that consistently, but I'm pretty sure they did that on occasion. Like they would start out in a zone and then it would be man or maybe maybe like we were talking about, maybe kind of a quasi box and one. It was just a lot of weird looks. Um, I guess I would describe it as it was a vastly better played um, version of what Greg Campy does at Oakland with his defense, because he has this, constantly shifting amoeba
Yeah.
thing that frankly gets shredded a lot, at least by good opponents. The Samford's defense should be effective. Their
Yeah.
numbers were not
That's,
their numbers were not good coming into this one, and I think the reason for that is, as we were talking about earlier, if you survive the possession, if you're not turning it over, and you're actually able to get a shot off, at least from two, your odds are pretty good.
yeah.
And
Cause you said
MSU
it was shooting 70% or something. It's
seven
insane.
MSU shot 70% on twos
Yeah.
in this game, which is a big deal. It's 21 for 31. So, that would suggest that, okay, there's some flaws here, but I think in Samford's case, there's not much they can do about that because they just don't have size on this roster. So what else are you going to do? I think he's actually, give him credit, I think Bucky McMillan has found an approach that if they play like that, I would guess they're going to be right there in their league again, because that's not fun to
No.
go against. And Michigan State, we've seen a team that I think by and large has executed at a pretty high level in its half court offense this year. And of course, what I'm saying there is, if 3-point shots aren't dropping, that doesn't mean you executed poorly, because I think
Right.
they've largely generated really good looks. Um, but they did not look smooth tonight. And some of that is on them, but some of that is a credit, I think, to Samford. So yeah, it's hard to say with this one on balance. I mean, look, they won the game. So I gotta say they found enough plays in there to get that job done.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right that when you factor in the difficulties they had in the half court, even when they weren't turning it over, um, it's probably fair to say it was a mediocre result at best.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Again, I encourage you to check out our support page at the Final Force on the schedule.com/support, ways to support the show, reach our sponsors like the Brothers Just Gutters, Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids, or Nudge Printing. And then again, ways to support the show. I really appreciate it. And so until next time, when we start talking about Maui, heading to Hawaii, the Final Four is on the schedule. Go green.
Whoop.